So, does the Raccoon City Police Department have any comment on what those things are? I'm getting out of here.
Hey. What the hell was that? Get back here! I'm out.
Written by Paul W.S. Anderson, directed by Alexander Witt, and acting as a direct sequel to the original 2002 film starring Milla Jovovich, Resident Evil Apocalypse continues the story of Alice after her grueling escape from the Hive.
The first Resident Evil, we had very little money to do it. It did about $110 million, but it became a really big hit. That's why we also decided it would be a good idea to do a second part.
Anderson and producer Jeremy Bolt were very keen on returning for a second film if the franchise was well received. So much so that Anderson began working on the script immediately after wrapping production on the first movie. Taking on criticism from the first film, he made a notable effort to include more elements and characters from the game series. After all, who the hell is Alice? Using the third game, Resident Evil Nemesis, as a template, he weaved in iconic characters like Jill Valentine and Carlos Oliveira.
Paul and I, since we finished the first film, have been talking about the second film. There's more time with the characters, and we allow them to develop a bit more.
Rumours of the sequel's development sprouted up in March of 2002, but the film wasn't officially greenlit by Sony Pictures until later that year. By the time the go-ahead was given, Anderson was already committed to work on Alien vs Predator, and was unable to return as director. While he had plenty of love for Resident Evil, especially considering his wife was now the main character, he'd been working on Alien vs Predator for 8 years, and ultimately made the right choice.
Alexander Witt is one of the world's best trained action directors because he's been the second unit director on some monster action movies.
Based on his work as second unit director for major action films including Speed and The Bourne Identity, Alexander Witt was offered the project as his directorial debut, and Paul would stay on the project in a removed capacity, serving as producer and screenwriter. Due to Witt's experience, he was able to provide a refreshing perspective for the production, offering a bigger scope, clever effects, and sleek cinematography.
He sets every shot. He can pull focus from over there. It is all about the cameras. It's all about light and magic. And that's something that he really understands.
When it came time for casting, Jovovich had no problem reprising her role as Alice, and Nemesis was given to the exceptionally tall and tough Matthew Taylor. For Jill Valentine, both Natasha Henstridge and Mira Sorvino were considered, but both were either unavailable or uninterested. Luckily, the role went to Sienna Guillory, who showed immense interest in accurately recreating the character, spending hours studying gameplay of Jill. Funnily enough, LJ was written with Snoop Dogg in mind, but when the studio struggled to get him on board, the part was rewritten for Mike Epps, who added his own comedic flair.
Defensive formation.
You motherfuckers is crazy. Look at that big motherfucker got a rocket launcher.
With a cast, crew, and a budget of $45 million secured, filming began in August of 2003 and lasted 9 weeks. Interestingly, the crew that shot Apocalypse was the same one that shot the 2002 musical adaptation of Chicago, which won 6 Academy Awards. And it shows. The entire film is extremely well shot and beautiful to look at.
I've never worked with a sequel before, but it's really great because there is this family energy.
It's all his fault.
It's a really lovely thing when you're on set and everyone cares about the movie. Everyone's really inspired.
Most of the filming took place in and around Toronto, with minimal sound stages used in favour of on-location shoots. Nearly 50 unique spots were used during production, including Westwood Theatre and the nearby secondary school. Other locations around the city were shut down for several days to accommodate the production as well, including Toronto City Hall and the Prince Edward Viaduct Bridge. Working with stunt coordinator Steve Lacuscu, most of the cast trained to perform their own stunts, especially Jovovich. While other actors like Sienna Guillory and Oded Fehr, aka the most gangster Medjay there ever was, had existing experience in martial arts, Jovovich worked tirelessly for nearly 4 months to hone her physique, endurance, and fighting form.
What we wanted to show in this shot, we wanted to show the city skyline. We wanted to show that we were actually up downtown Toronto and it was 450 feet in the air.
Opting for practical effects, most of the action included loads of wire work and plenty of uncomfortable moments for the cast. Jovovich was dragged across the floor and thrown into the air for multiple action sequences, while Oded, channeling his inner Tom Cruise, chose to jump from a helicopter for Carlos's wild opening scene. Even the extras playing the undead had to go through a zombie boot camp to ensure consistency in movement and expression.
My approach for the movie was to do it as realistic as possible. If there's something that we couldn't do on camera, then go and talk to our visual supervisor and see how we could achieve this on CGI.
A variety of visual effects were used, including CGI and green screen, as well as practical effects that incorporated scale models. Frantic Film Studio provided most of the special effects, with CGI only being used in a few select shots. One of the biggest challenges was bringing Nemesis to the screen. Given Taylor's gigantic stature, they had the size down, but forced aspect ratios were used to make him appear even larger, and to make the costume more lifelike, post-production color work was added. Additional effects were ironically completed by Mr. X Incorporated, who helped with big destruction sequences, primarily the destruction of Toronto City Hall. This was achieved through the creation of a 43-foot tall model replica of the building, which took 4 months to create. The model was then outfitted with thousands of tiny explosive charges, adding a burst of raining glass to the climactic scene.
We then added other CG particles over top of that, and a visible front edge as it moves through the frame.
Resident Evil Apocalypse finished filming in October of 2003, and post-production wrapped up a few months later, with plenty of time for marketing and advertising campaigns to get underway before the film's release. In addition to standard promotional material, an imaginative teaser trailer was also created by Marcus Nispel, who at the time had just finished his 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake.
Regenerates revolutionary T-cell formula, actually brings dead cells back to life.
The teaser played out as a faux advertisement for an umbrella-backed skincare product, before the on-screen model turns into a zombie. The movie begins with Umbrella agents trying to enter the hive and find out what happened, before quickly being overrun by the infected, who continue to spill out into the streets of Raccoon City. Realizing the incident is beyond containment, Umbrella then attempts to evacuate valuable assets from the city, including the advanced genetics and virus researcher, Dr. Ashford, played by Jared Harris.
Excuse us, sir. There's been an incident.
How bad is it?
You have to come with us.
While Ashford safely makes his way out of town, his young daughter Angie is left stranded in the city. 13 hours later, Raccoon City is in a state of absolute chaos, with Umbrella sealing all the exits and instituting martial law.
You have 5 seconds to turn around and return to the city.
Do it. Use of live ammunition has been authorized.
As the madness continues into the night, Umbrella agents try to contain the situation, including Carlos and his crew, who give up their ticket out to rescue a civilian. Meanwhile, Alice wakes up in the hospital and discovers the immediate area completely abandoned. Not one to be left defenseless, she finds a gun store and gears up, but begins to suffer side effects of the T-virus experiments. Trying to find safety, Jill Valentine, fellow officer Peyton Wells, and local journalist Terry Morales team up and hunker down in a gloomy church.
You have to get out! This is my place. I'm hiding here.
I think it's big enough for all of us.
Don't tell me what. Okay, just cool it. Put the gun down.
One that is quickly overrun with lickers that escape the hive. Luckily, they're saved from certain death by Alice, who comes careening through a stained glass window on a motorcycle with explosive fury. Escaping the church only to then be attacked by rising corpses, the group is soon contacted by Ashford, who offers safe passage out of the city if they rescue his daughter. He also strikes up the same deal with Carlos and his squad, who have been left for dead in Raccoon City. While not everyone is happy about this, they all agree after finding out Umbrella planned on erasing any evidence of their misdeeds by releasing a nuke. Seeing the city as a perfect testing ground, Umbrella unleashes Nemesis. Outfitted with a rocket launcher and minigun, and standing as a mountain of hulking, murderous mass, the Nemesis is Matt Addison, disfigured and enhanced by the T-virus. Displaying his combat prowess, Nemesis kills a dozen of armed STARS officers with brutal efficiency, before pursuing the rest of the remaining agents in town.
There's something down there. There.
I don't see anything.
Well, that doesn't alter the fact that there is something down there.
I'm getting sick of this bullshit.
Alice and the rest of the survivors are then ambushed by Nemesis, but are able to locate Angie at the school, who's in possession of T-virus antidotes. Unfortunately, due to their stupid decision to split up, many of them are killed during the search, including Terry, who's eaten alive by zombie kids. With Angie under their protection, they attempt to commandeer the last evacuation helicopter, but are ambushed by Umbrella, who stage a climactic fight between Alice and the Nemesis. Despite gaining the upper hand, Alice stops fighting after realizing it's actually her friend Matt. Nemesis also shares this sentiment too, and pulls a reverse Uno card, opting to attack Umbrella instead. As Alice and the rest of the group fly out of town, they're thrown into the mountains by the shockwave of the nuke, which decimates the city. Alice sacrifices herself to save Angela, and TV footage attributes the explosion to a meltdown of the city's nuclear power plant, covering up the company's involvement.
The perpetrators of the hoax, Jill Valentine and Carlos Oliveira, now being sought for questioning by the police.
She then miraculously wakes up in another research facility with new powers and escapes with help from the crew, only for Dr. Alexander Isaacs, a top-ranking Umbrella official, to reveal it was all part of Umbrella's plan. Resident Evil Apocalypse was released on September 10, 2004, and debuted at the top spot in the box office, competing against films like the spy thriller Cellular and the buddy comedy Without a Paddle. And after a lengthy run, Resident Evil Apocalypse pulled in nearly $130 million. Regardless of the film's commercial success, it has become the subject of surprisingly heated debates, with both fans and critics equally panning and praising the movie. While it might not be the best video game movie ever made, Resident Evil Apocalypse is still a fun, albeit goofy zombie flick with plenty of action, and an excellent performance from Jovovich and the supporting cast. But with that said, of course, we'd love to hear what you guys thought about the movie, so please share that in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and yeah, if you have any other suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.